The Center for the Study of the Presidency and Congress would like to thank our trustee, Mr. Robert Day, for his generous support.
Behold a republic, resting securely upon the mountain of eternal truth. A republic of mind.
Whether it wishes us well or ill, that we shall pay any price.
We face the arduous days that lie before us in the warm courage of national unity.
It is the task of statesmanship to mold, to balance, and to integrate these and other forces, new and old, within the principles of our democratic system, ever aiming toward the supreme.
Since the dawn of modern political civilization, the world's great thinkers have grappled with the concept of what makes a true statesman. Aristotle observed, what the statesman is most anxious to produce is a certain moral character in his fellow citizens. Hans Morgenthau spent his life studying foreign policy, and after working with the State Department and serving 2 presidents, concluded, politics is an art and not a science, and what is required for its mastery is not the rationality of the engineer, but the wisdom and moral strength of the statesman. Pulitzer Prize-winning author Walter Lippmann pointed out, a good statesman, like any other sensible human being, always learns more from his opposition than from his fervent supporters. And President Eisenhower understood that statesmanship is developed in the hard knocks of general experience. Our modern political world is rife with these hard knocks, with challenges so significant that in the coming years they have the ability to completely redefine who we are as a people. At home, we face a debt crisis of nearly $20 trillion and a healthcare system that seems on the brink of collapse. Widespread inequalities continue to plague our society, and we appear to be as divided as almost any time in our history over a wide range of foundational issues. Abroad, the challenges we confront are an even greater threat. With each passing day, new threats arise in distant places from North Korea to China, from Russia to Iran, that will require constant vigilance in the years to come. But each of these obstacles presents a tangible opportunity for the steady hand of statesmanship. As Theodore Roosevelt once observed, if there is not the war, you don't get the great general. If there is not a great occasion, you don't get a great statesman.
Statesmanship, to me, is about rising above the various competing interests, trying to look at what is best for our country.
We're at a time where this country is divided politically. We're divided along class lines, around economic lines. And this is a very difficult time, but that's why we need statesmen now more than ever.
In many cases, people are so worried about being pure to their political base that they are afraid to come to the middle and actually get things done. Our founding fathers embraced compromise as fundamental to this democracy.
By any measure, 3 of those founding fathers, John Jay, Alexander Hamilton, and James Madison, were statesmen. They helped lead us through the Revolutionary War, and in the early years, they built a foundation that would, in time, help our country to become the most powerful democracy the world has ever seen. John Jay was a patriot and a diplomat who went on to serve as the first Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. Alexander Hamilton became known as the founder of our nation's financial system, and our 4th president, James Madison, is remembered today as the father of the Constitution. Together, these 3 men authored a collection of 85 articles and essays known as the Federalist Papers that they published together under the shared pseudonym Publius. These Federalist Papers literally laid the groundwork for the America we know today, and are regarded as some of the most profound works of statesmanship in the history of the world. It is this collaborative spirit of Publius defined by a willingness to work together, to lead deliberately, to approach both friend and foe alike with a certain gentleness and underlying friendship. That the Center for the Study of the Presidency and Congress is proud to present the 2017 Publius Award to Representative Steny Hoyer from Maryland and Senator Roy Blunt from Missouri.
I think the Publius Award celebrates civility, it celebrates grace, it celebrates respect, and it celebrates compromise. Compromise is what's made this country great in the best sense of the word. It's trying to work with somebody who you may not agree with on a particular issue, but respecting where they come from and trying to find common ground. And I think it's very important for leaders of today and for leaders of tomorrow, like our presidential fellows, to appreciate the sacrifices that the founding fathers made and that their successors, men and women who have led this country to be the best country in the world, what they have done to get there. And to see the Publius Award as a great example to connect today's leaders with the founders of more than 200 years ago.
Steny Hoyer began his political career at an early age. While studying law at Georgetown, he worked alongside a young Nancy Pelosi as a staff member for Senator Daniel Brewster of Maryland. In 1966, at just 27 years of age, he won a seat in the Maryland State Senate, and in 1975, he was elected president of the Maryland State Senate, the youngest in the state's history. He served on the Maryland Board of Higher Education, and in a 1981 special election, emerged from a 7-way primary, then defeated a well-funded Republican opponent to win a seat in Congress representing the 5th District in Maryland. His surprise victory earned him the nickname Boy Wonder. By the very next year, Hoyer had so impressed his critics that he was re-elected with more than 80% of the vote. Today, having served in Congress for 36 years, Steny Hoyer is among the most respected leaders on the Hill, admired by colleagues on both sides of the aisle for his commitment to principles on the one hand and his willingness to work closely with political rivals on the other.
Steny Hoyer is a statesman. He's articulate, he's well respected. When Steny speaks, you listen. And a lot of politics should be about relationships and trust. And I think Steny is respected because people, they may not always agree with him, but they trust him and they know that he's doing what he thinks is right for his country.
Throughout his tenure, Steny Hoyer has proven it is possible to be both a strong partisan supporter and a team player on critical issues. He has navigated the balance between the two with expert precision.
I've worked with Steny on a lot of things because Steny is somebody who's always reached out to the moderates. He understands that a party can't be in the majority if there aren't people of moderation, because we don't have enough bright blue and bright red places to produce a majority that can actually get through the rules of Congress and get a bill passed.
He and I disagreed on a lot of things when we were in Congress, but I always found that I could sit down with Steny Hoyer and have conversations about, is there a place that we can come together and move forward on some of these differences? To me, that's a great leader in Congress. I think he has been a great leader for the Democrat Party in Congress, but he's also been a great statesman in many, many ways, even behind the scenes, to try to get some things done.
His graceful style and skill at building consensus has allowed Congressman Hoyer to take a leading role in many of the issues of our day, from preserving and expanding jobs to keeping Americans safe from terrorist attacks. In 1990, through his sense of grace, friendship, and civility, Steny Hoyer built a broad consensus to pass the Americans with Disabilities Act, which was signed into law by President George Herbert Walker Bush. His leadership was also praised as he guided the Help America Vote Act that was signed into law in 2002 by President George W. Bush, legislation trumpeted as the most significant piece of election law since the Voting Rights Act. And today, as the second highest ranking Democrat in the U.S. House of Representatives, Hoyer continues to play a key role in defining and articulating the message of his party, and at the same time, serves as an important bridge to Republican lawmakers who are interested in working together to find common ground. As such, Congressman Steny Hoyer is a living example of the words put forth by 19th century author and theologian James Freeman Clarke, who remarked, "A politician thinks of the next election, a statesman of the next generation." And the same holds true for his friend and confidant, Republican Senator Roy Blunt from Missouri.
What's great about Congressman Hoyer and Senator Blunt is while they are very proud to be in their respective parties, and while they always stay true to their ideologies, they're able to rise above political differences to do what's right for the country.
When you run into Roy or you run into Steny, they will pause long enough to actually pay attention to what you're saying. You know, a lot of people around here kind of look over your shoulder to see who is important behind you and who is next in line that they maybe need to see more than they need to see you. Roy and Steny don't do that. You have genuine moments of connection with them.
Those are the kind of traits that I think Roy Blunt has displayed. I've seen him express himself in a manner that pulls people together, does not divide them, but moves us towards a place that is good for our country.
Like Steny Hoyer, Roy Blunt entered politics at an early age, and in more than 4 decades of public service, has developed the skills of a true statesman. In 1973, at the age of just 23, Senator Blunt was appointed to serve as county clerk and chief election official, a position he was re-elected to 3 times, serving the people of Greene County, Missouri, for 12 years. In 1984, he was elected Missouri's Secretary of State and served under then-Governor John Ashcroft for 8 years in this position. In 1996, Roy Blunt successfully ran for the U.S. House of Representatives and held that position until being sworn in as senator in 2011. Throughout this long career of public service, Senator Blunt has developed a reputation for being both an ardent advocate of Republican ideas and at the same time, a person willing to work across the aisle on legislation important to our country. As the St. Louis Dispatch reported, Senator Blunt has one of the most conservative voting records, yet he generally avoids the confrontational, firebrand style. They reported that during his tenure, Blunt's most significant legislative accomplishments all had Democrat co-sponsors. He worked tirelessly to co-sponsor a bill with Democratic Senator Patty Murray to increase funding for the National Institutes of Health for the first time in over a decade. He worked with Democratic Senator Chris Coons to extend the Victims of Child Abuse Act, partnered with Democrat Debbie Stabenow from Michigan to write the Excellence in Mental Health Act, and teamed up with Democrat Sherrod Brown from Ohio to sponsor the Revitalize American Manufacturing Act. And in early 2017, having just come through a tough re-election bid, Senator Blunt received praise for working closely with Democratic Senator Chuck Schumer to orchestrate the successful inauguration ceremonies for our nation's 45th president.
Some of the most effective leaders I've certainly have witnessed here are those individuals who can be very passionate about what they believe in, hold to their principles, but understand I have to work with a whole bunch of people who don't think like I do and don't see the world the way I do. Can we forge an agreement to move the country forward? Those to me are always the best leaders here. They're not always the loudest, they're not always on TV all the time, but they're the ones who are presenting options for solutions that people can come together around.
So here's the deal about Steny and my friend Roy Blunt. They are really role models in so many ways because that difficult and challenging road to compromise is only clear through the mechanism of friendship. You've got to be friends with people who you disagree with in order to get past all the noise, in order to get down to the hard work of saying, okay, you and I are never going to agree on that, but let's try this. This is what Steny and Roy are all about. They are really good friends, and even though they disagree on a whole bucket full of stuff, they have managed a way through the years to maneuver around their disagreements to find that one place where they can actually get things done together.
Too many politicians today think that being partisan and being true to the party means that you have to be against the other party 100% of the time. And the answer is to be respectful and be civil. And Roy Blunt, Steny Hoyer are two prime examples of that, who, again, they're very true to their party, but they have civility and respect for the other side.
We need leadership, both Republicans and Democrats, who are going to work together on behalf of our country to get things done. And unfortunately, that hasn't happened for years. And I really respect Steny Hoyer and also Roy Blunt, because they worked together as whips, Republicans and Democrats, when we were in the majority and when they were in the majority. And they worked together to get things done. And they're being honored tonight because of that relationship.
Former Surgeon General Richard Carmona once said, "I see good ideas on the Republican side as well as the Democrat side. You have to return civility and statesmanship to governance. If you don't do that, it doesn't matter what issue you're pushing. Nothing is going to get done." Perhaps that is how the founders intended it. Strong partisanship keeps things from moving too quickly. Grace, civility, and compromise keeps them from moving too slowly. And in the end, thoughtful, deliberate statesmanship guides our nation to the higher ground we seek together. Today, as our country looks to the many challenges just over the horizon, there are no two finer examples of this steady hand of statesmanship than the two men we honor tonight, Representative Steny Hoyer from Maryland and Senator Roy Blunt from Missouri.